All right, so that's good. We're recording now. So we're starting with attitude. So attitudes obviously is our individual ways of thinking. And we know that we vastly differ from one to another. We are all individual. We all come from different background. We all come from different age group. We all come from different, family background. A lot of these idiosyncratic variables that differentiates one from another. Like my thinking pattern is different than yours, and your thinking pattern is different than someone else. So this is all reflected into our behavior, because what is our attitude, that's always likely to reflect it into our behavior. Sometimes our attitudes are favorable towards something, sometimes our attitudes are not favorable. And depending on how our attitudes are, that is very much related with our actions. Now, in terms of organization, we just need to keep in mind that why are we talking about attitude? Because as I mentioned before, that this course will be embedded with lots of other disciplines. And attitudes is probably something that is more discussed in the psychology domain. So in the psychology domain, there's a lot of discussion around attitudes, like what forms individuals' attitudes. And the psychologists are the one who largely investigates the way people behave and their attitudes. But we're talking this in regards to organizational behavior. So you may wonder that why are we even talking about attitudes? So the connection here is that your employer needs to understand, or one employer needs to understand their employees' attitudes, because if they can influence their attitudes in a positive way, it's likely that the employees will behave in a positive way as well. Similarly, if the employer has a negative influence over the employees' attitudes, it is very likely that the employee will also behave negatively within the workplace. And that is why it's absolutely essential for the employers to be able to learn how individuals, how could they shape the positive attitudes of their employees. So attitudes has got some components, and we'll be talking about those components. So think about this example. I like my job. So that's like an expression, right? I like my job. It's an expression about my job. Now, in order to fully understand attitudes, we need to understand what are those like key constructs of attitude, what forms attitude. So if you want to form someone's attitude, if you want to form someone's attitude or influence attitude towards like a positive way, we need to understand the components. So there are three main components of attitudes. First one is called the cognitive component, second, affective component, and the third one is our behavioral component. So we need to understand the difference between these three. So as the name suggests, anything when it says it's cognitive, it goes deep down inside our brain, all right? So the cognitive aspect is more to do with our opinion or belief. So a description or belief in the way things are, it sets the stage for a more critical part of an attitude, that is the affective component. So cognitive, you can relate cognitive, it's our cognition, and cognition starts from deep down within ourselves. So it's our belief about something, and cognitive aspect actually starts with our perception. So imagine sometimes we look at a same picture, right? I mean, but not necessarily we all see the same image. Maybe we're all looking at the same picture, but we don't always see the same image. And the reason is that to a lot of extent, it's something to do with our own cognitive behavior, because the cognition from one to another varies to a large extent. I want to show you an image that ideally represents that our perception is different from one to another. Let me just share. Like sometimes we see like different images, but like the same image, but we see a different picture. And I wanted to use this as an example. Like, these two guys, they're actually looking at the same number, right? But the standpoint from one, he's looking at number 6, but the other one is looking at number 9. And that's the problem, like a perception, because both of them, they're right from their end. They're looking at the same image, but what they have inside their mind is different. So similarly, again, think in the workplace. When you're in the workplace, the situation, imagine one situation that's unique for both of the or all the employers, but everyone has their own level of understanding. And that's where our belief system is largely different from one to another. So that's something really we need to keep in mind, that our cognition, what is our cognitive aspect, which is our belief. Now, affective component is another one, which is influenced by our cognitive component, and that is our emotional feeling of an attitude, and that is reflected. So the cognitive starts with our belief. So it's what is like the foundation of our innermost belief, and that is displayed into our affective component that affects us, like our emotional feeling on that. I'll give you an example which will make it clear to you. And finally, behavior is the outcome. So describes an intention to behave in a certain way towards someone or something. So it's important for us to be able to understand the difference. So let me just give you example. So the statement, my pay is low, all right? So imagine an employee gets paid low. So the cognitive component starts from a belief. So maybe he or she is comparing his or her pay with someone else, and he or she ends up with the conclusion that my pay is low. So that is the cognitive component, a belief in your mind, because you just compared your salary with someone else who has almost similar qualification or experience like yours, but you still found that that other individual is getting paid more. So it starts with your belief, and that's your cognitive component. You have embedded this thought inside your mind saying that, well, my pay is low. Now, what is the affective component? The affective component then comes as, it's an expression through anger. Like you're angry, you're clearly angry. I'm angry over how little I'm paid. Or you're frustrated. No, I'm not doing this job. And the third one is the behavioral aspect, where you are displaying the reaction, which is, I'm going to look for another job that pays better. So this is how this simply, if we deconstruct this overall behavior, how this behavior works. Again, this has a lot to do with the psychology discipline, but we need to know this because an employer, imagine you are a manager, you need to know that how does it affect. So it trickles down through these 3 different layers. It starts with the cognitive component where an attitude or belief is formed, and then that creates an emotional arousal, which is anger or frustration. It could be satisfaction as well. Sometimes if someone's pay is higher, so it could work the other way around as well. And the final action would be looking for another job. Or if you reverse it, the final action could be you're very satisfied in the job. So as an employer, it's really important to understand that how employees' attitude will change from one to another. Has anyone got any question? Or can anyone give me an example of attitude formation? Let's talk about some example. Let's take a pause and do some reflection. Think about some example. So cognitive, affective, and behavioral component. Using the same example almost. All right, let me give you a relatable situation, all right? Something that you can all relate. Now, recently, imagine you've got a boyfriend or girlfriend, all right? Recently, you have found that your boyfriend or girlfriend is texting to someone else, all right, other than you. So this, you've discovered that recently he or she has been, like, doing lots of texting with someone else. Now, break this situation into cognitive, affective, and the, the behavioral component. Can someone give me example? A large number of people has still their cameras off, so I can see most of the people's face. Not sure if they are in the class or not. So again, just a caution that you need to keep your cameras on in the class. So we're talking about attitude, and definitely this is going to be an important aspect for the quiz, for the assessments. We came to the understanding that attitude has 3 different aspects, starting with a behavioral component, starting with the cognitive component, then affective, and the last one is the behavioral. So I gave you a scenario that recently you found your boyfriend or girlfriend is texting someone quite regularly. So the cognitive component, let me just help you out. So, okay, Sadman Sakib raised a hand. Now we've got a brave one. So Sadman, please go ahead. And while you do that, can you turn your cameras on?
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
So I'm having trouble. Sorry, sir. Sir, I will have to fix my privacy. I'm just fixing it, sir. But can I go ahead now?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, firstly, I think that effective component would be like our feeling, how we are feeling because of their behavior.
Maybe start with the cognition, because the first step in attitude formation starts with the cognitive aspect, and that's our belief that's deep down inside. So even before the affective comes, it starts with the cognitive aspect.
Yes, sir. So we will, sir. It will be our knowledge. Like, sir, we expect them not to text because we feel like they should be the one loyal to us. So that we will feel like they have. I don't know. What can I say? And sir, there will be a behavioral change. Like it is our behavioral component will be we will feel angry towards that person, and we will like start a conversation and we'll fight. And later on our affective component would be we both I will feel sad if that person does that, I think.
Okay. All right.
Sir, I believe like the cognitive component will be like our belief for him or her will be that he or she is cheating on us. So from that, the effective part is gonna be we might get angry, and from that, the behavioral part is gonna be we might break up. So that's the action.
Yeah, good one, both of you. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
So yes, starts with that. When you maybe you suspect that maybe your boyfriend or girlfriend is texting to others. So with this behavior, if we break it up, so the first one is the cognitive starts with it starts with a suspicious feeling, like, and that's the cognitive part that starts from deep down inside. It's a belief. So the belief starts from here that maybe what he or she is doing is not right. So then that will be transformed into your affective component, and the affective component would be an expression where you'll probably express your anger or frustration or your suspicion him or her, saying that, hey, I have been watching that you have been texting someone quite a lot, which is quite unusual. Usually you do that with me, but nowadays I'm watching you're doing that with someone else. So that's the affective component where you're readily expressing your behavior. And then finally is an action, which is where you are going to show a behavioral outcome of that affective component, that either you will end up having a breakup or you will have a heated conversation or argument over that same thing. So this is how these three things, and attitude has got three properties, starting with cognitive, second with your affective, and third one is the behavioral. Okay, that's good. So here's another example from a workplace situation. Okay, so my supervisor gave a promotion to a coworker who deserved it less than me. My supervisor is unfair. It's a cognitive thinking, because this guy or this lady, she clearly is unfair because she gave promotion to someone else. And then your affective component is, nah, I don't like my supervisor. He or she is not fair. And then finally, I'm looking for other work. I've complained about my supervisors to anyone who would listen. Okay, so this is how it's being displayed. So we just need to understand this, because as an employee of the organization or even as a manager, you need to understand the formation of this behavior. Okay. So just breaking up this, because as I've just mentioned, so it's more like, you know, you feel that you have been unfairly disadvantaged. So clearly, like, you know, the employee thought he deserved promotion, but then he strongly dislikes his supervisor, and then finally looking for a job. So keep this three in mind. So what are the three main properties of attitude formation? And the answer is cognitive, affective, and behavioral. It's a quiz question again. Okay, have a quiz. Let's have a quiz. Which of the following statements represents the cognitive component of attitude? I have decided to inform my supervisor that I will be quitting my job. I intend to work during the weekend to meet the month's deadline. I feel upset about having to work during Christmas. It is disappointing to know that I did not get a good evaluation. The job is not giving me an opportunity to explore my skills.
Sir, option E.
Option E, sir.
Sir, option E.
I'm so much pleased. Very well done, group. So clearly we can see that A and B is the behavioral component, right? Because I have decided to inform. So that's a decision. That's a behavioral aspect. B is also I intend to work during the weekend. That's again a behavioral. C and D, upset and disappointment. These are affective component, because this is displaying your behavior. Like, you know, the expression, how you do that. But the behavior, the finally is, the job is not giving me an opportunity to explore my skills. So this is the cognitive component. So this is a belief. Very well done. Next one. Jane feels disheartened because she was not selected for the campaign exchange program in Amsterdam. Which component of an attitude does Jane's feelings represent?
Your affective.
Affective, B.
Okay, what's the majority voice?
Affective.
Say affective.
Sir, effective.
That is right, because feeling disheartened is like, you know, she got disheartened, obviously, because she was not selected. So even before she got disheartened, she felt that it was not fair that she was not selected. So the affective component came later in the scene. First, she was not clearly satisfied with the decision of not selecting her for the campaign. So that is very good. I'm very pleased to learn that you all have understood. Here's an example of cognitive dissonance. Here's another topic, a new topic. A cognitive dissonance is something that we also have to understand. A lot of the time, again, this is a topic of the psychology discipline. We need to understand what is a cognitive dissonance. Sometimes we have a mismatch between our action, between our belief and our action. That is called cognitive dissonance. A friend of yours has consistently argued that the quality of US cars isn't up to that imports, that he'd never owned anything but a Japanese or German car. But his dad gives him a late model Ford Mustang, and suddenly he says US cars aren't so bad. So here's the situation where we can see that first, this friend of yours, he thought that US cars aren't that good. Rather, he would own a Japanese or German car. But recently, his dad gives him a Ford Mustang. I don't know if you've seen Mustang. Mustang is a very popular American car. It's a muscle car, it's a very popular, car with high speed and all the flashy things. And suddenly he started to like. See, the cognitive aspect sometimes, and this is something you also need to understand, that sometimes, although the belief was that US cars are that good, but in this case, he changed his mind. So this is called a cognitive dissonance because he wasn't sure with his feelings. So the next thing after we have come to understood what attitude is, we need to understand what is cognitive dissonance. So a cognitive dissonance is the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitude, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. Any incompatibility of an individual might perceive between behavior and attitude. So sometimes we see that people, they have an incompatibility on what they think and what they do. And that is what the aspect of cognitive dissonance is. So when you see some of your employer, they don't have the same level of action or behavior, that's where we need to think about it. And let me give you another example which will clarify this a bit better. And I want you to read this one carefully as well. So what is this example? So this is again another example of what we call a cognitive dissonance. Because this lady Jonas, she obviously understands that paying low to the employees is not right. Paying low wage and like all of those situations is not right. But despite that, she knows that she need to during the situation of economic meltdown, she needs to pay her shareholder, and that's the reason she is still doing that. And this actually is a real scenario. Now, you may have all seen the good apple, when it comes to Apple products, you all see the good apple, but there's a bad side of Apple as well that a lot of us, we don't know. So this could be related to that. Do you guys know where Apple phones are all manufactured?
In China.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this at the beginning. Yes, China. So a lot of the
Thailand as well.
Yeah, maybe in Thailand as well. So most of these products are being produced in countries like in China or Thailand, in Taiwan. So they've got all of their manufacturing plants here. So they have been in China, obviously we know that China is probably one of the manufacturing oriented country where the production cost is so low, and the labor wage is also very, very low in China. And that's the reason they can carve out opportunities, because they can sell their products at a cheaper price. So that's why Apple gets all of their products manufactured in China. Although it's designed in California or their headquarters, but all of the products are being produced in China. And similarly, not only Apple and Nike and all of the big brands, but it's unfortunate that all the people who actually produces or manufactures, like workers, they get paid very, very low. And it's quite similar to our Bangladeshi ready-made garment industry as well. We see that all of these big brands like Levi's or like H&M, these big brands, they sell their products with the grandeur and obviously the fame, but the workers here at the other end, they're getting paid very low. So a lot of the time, these are known as sweatshops. It's being like a terminology quite frequently used to associate this situation. It's called sweatshop. So with these big brands, they have created these sweatshops, the workers' blood, sweat, and tear are all what is involved into this. They're making these great quality products which are sold in the Western world, but workers are not even getting paid. And we can rightly involve this one or relate this one with the cognitive dissonance. Sometimes we also show a cognitive dissonance. What you go to in terms of consumer behavior, because I teach consumer behavior as well. So a lot of the time you'll see that even after buying something, you're not entirely happy about the product. And you've got something in your mind that, well, I bought this phone, but I don't quite like it as much as I should. I paid XYZ amount of money, but I still don't like it. And this feeling that the inconsistency between your action and your belief, that is called cognitive dissonance. So employers should also be able to reveal the cognitive dissonance of their workers, that why an employee is coming to work, sitting at her desk, working every day, but she's not still satisfied. So where's the cognitive dissonance part? So it's really important. A lot of the time you'll see that employers or the HR within the organization, they will undertake survey, they will undertake some study to understand, reveal what's creating that problem. Why are they satisfied and why are they not? So they try to, I guess, reveal where's the dissonance part. And that's really important for the employers to understand the cognitive dissonance. Okay, so let's talk about some major job attitudes. So far, we only talked about what is attitude. We looked into attitude, we deconstructed the concept of attitude from various dimensions. But now we just need to know what are the major job attitudes. And that's really something that we have to be able to relate with our study. So 3 major job attitudes: job satisfaction, job involvement, organizational commitment. These are the main 3 job attitudes. Quiz question again. Some other job attitudes could be perceived organizational support, employee engagement, but the 3 main ones where we'll rest upon would be job satisfaction, job involvement, and organizational commitment. Can you all hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes my internet can play up as well. So my apologies if my voice is breaking up. Just mention that to me, please. So let's just dive into each of these one by one. So let's talk about job satisfaction. Okay. So every employer out there, they want their employees to be satisfied. And job satisfaction is a positive feeling regarding job resulting from an evaluation of its characteristics. And generally, the characteristics would be employees' mentality towards how challenging the work is, The rewards are equitable. That means there's no discrepancy among the same level of your co-workers, whether it's male, female, or it's someone else. Supportive working condition, supportive colleagues, personality, and your job fit. All of these things together will combine your job satisfaction. So it's really important for employers so that they understand that what creates the satisfaction with their job employees. So this is another quiz question. What is job satisfaction? All right. So I hope you will be able to answer this one. A positive feeling regarding job resulting from an evaluation of its characteristics. So that's one of the attitudes we've been talking about. Sorry. The second attitude, job involvement. So what is job involvement? It refers to psychological and emotional extent to which someone participates in his or her work, profession, and company. So involvement, it's a psychological state of mind where someone demonstrates their behavior through their participation into the work. It measures the degree to which people relate psychologically with their job. Employees with a high level of job involvement strongly identify with and really care about the kind of work they do. Now, if you recall, we talked about Google in our first class, or probably in the first week. We were giving example of why Google is rated probably one of the highest ranked, or the best working place. And the reason being, employees, they're highly involved because they are not only, they don't go there for the perks and the benefits that they get other than their salaries, but they're also involved themselves into the work so heavily. And that's how it became the most productive workplace, because the satisfaction is parallel with productivity. If you're satisfied, then you're productive. If you're not satisfied, then you are not productive. Similarly, your involvement and productivity is also parallel. If you're involved into the job, you'll be productive. If you're not involved in the job, you will not be productive. As simple as that. So job involvement is another important aspect where the employers need to take a careful, understanding of why employees are not that involved into the work. High job involvement is also related to reduced absences and lower resignation rates. Another closely related concept is psychological empowerment. See, I'm actually today talking about lots of new topics and lots of dense topic. So you really need to keep this get involved into this, and then keep this in your mind, because this is something you're revealing a lot of these concepts. Although you might inadvertently experience these on a daily basis, but you just need to understand the other side, the theoretical side. So yeah, just make sure that you also do some reflection or study afterwards our lecture. So psychological empowerment is employees' beliefs in the degree to which they influence their work environment, their competence, their perceived autonomy. How do we break up this concept? Employees' beliefs in the degree to which they influence their work environment, their competence, and their perceived autonomy. So let's maybe rest on the term called perceived autonomy. Now, in every workplace, we desire to have a certain degree of autonomy. And the autonomy means that you're able to exercise your knowledge and understanding in the work, in the decision making. We all want that.
Can you repeat it?
Okay, just stopping my video. Okay, so as I was saying, that in every workplace, we all desire to be able to exercise a certain degree of autonomy. And the autonomy is getting involved into the decision making. Imagine in a workplace that every day you go and then you don't have any power on the decision making. Rather, you're always being told, do that, do this, do that, do this, and then you're just like a slave where you don't have any empowerment. And that's really not something desirable. No one wants to become a slave of an organization. Rather, you want to go there as a knowledge worker where you have some perceived autonomy, and that is really important. And this concept could be related with our psychological empowerment. Employees, they really need some psychological empowerment is in the work, so that they feel that, yes, I'm empowered in the work. All right. So these are all great topics for, people who are at the, probably in the manager, or, someone in the human resource, because they constantly do the assessment. So the organization, like big and successful organization, they constantly have, they check their employees, whether they empowered, whether they involved, whether they're satisfied. It's really important for them to be able to understand these concepts. Okay, now a mental pause. Let's have a mental pause, and I want you to think on this one. So why high job involvement is also related to reduced absences and lower resignation rates. Have a think, and yeah, let's have a discussion over this one again. So I want someone just to give us a bit of reflection on this one.
Sir, like a major part of their life revolve around the job, so they're more involved in it. So they usually don't miss it, and they don't resign.
Okay.
They feel more involved in the workplace. They don't feel left out. So they are at psychological peace. Like they like their workplace more. So hence they don't have the need to be absent or to resign.
Yes, exactly. Very well said. Thank you so much. So it's quite natural that when you are highly involved into the job, it's a place where you don't feel like bored. It's not a place where you go to get bored. Rather, it's a place where you want to go there every day. So there's no way you will be absent from the work. Every day is exciting for you. Yes, I want to go to my workplace. And it's likely shown in your behavior that you're not going to resign anytime soon because you're very happy with your workplace. So higher job involvement is what employers seek from their employees, that how can we increase or improve their job involvement. So there's got to be, work should be designed in that. So everything that we are talking about is relevant because employers need to ensure that how can they get their employees more involved in the job. If they cannot involve their employees in the job enough, there's no way they will get satisfied employees, and there will be higher resignation rates. Okay, so time for a pause and probably talk about some admin type stuff, right? Because we do have another class this week, so I wanted to talk a little bit about our admin side.